What's up, guys? This is Jay from Generation Geek, and today we'll be running down a list of Sentry's most powerful feats in comics. Now, with the new release of the Thunderbolts movie coming out soon, and we were given the information that Stephen Young will become the new Sentry, I decided it would be cool to go over some of his most powerful feats in comics. Again, this is my list. Another disclaimer: in this, we will not be showing the feats of Merge Sentry, Revenant Prime Sentry, or Death Sea Sentry. This will just all be basic Sentry, power all on his own, minus the Void and all those other, hacks and power-ups and stuff like that. Alright, first off, we're going to start with something light, but not too light. Still impressive within itself. In the last and recent Sentry comic book, he was put into a pocket dimension with the help of, I believe, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange. And in that pocket dimension, he was in a fight with the Void. And during that time, Sentry, with just one strike, was able to split the moon in two. Like, I don't care who you are, Superman, Shazam, anyway, if you're able to split a moon in two, like, that's just impressive within itself. So that will be the first one on our list. Next on our list, we have the Siege of Asgard. Siege was a very, very dope story during the Dark Reign era of Marvel Comics. It was one of my favorite storylines. I believe it was written very well from all the writers, and also drawn and really well by all the artists involved as well. But of course, I could not make a list without putting in the scene in which Sentry is giving Ares straight hands. And don't get me wrong, Ares was fighting back pretty well. Like, he was holding his own for a little bit, but the Sentry was just way too OP. And as always, of course, everybody remembers the moment in which he literally rips Ares in half. So I would have been remiss not to put this one on the list. And up next, Sentry versus World War Hulk. Of course, another one, same as Sentry, another super infamous fight where it was just a barroom brawl between the Sentry and the Hulk during the World War Hulk series, in which Sentry and the Hulk finally come into a head-to-head at the end of the story. Sentry and the Hulk were going at it. Sentry was holding his own very well, actually was beating the Hulk majority of the fight until they powered down and Hulk was able to knock him out. But it was super impressive. I mean, there was just energy blast everywhere. Them going through buildings, blowing holes through walls. They destroyed all of Madison Square Garden. So for all you New York fans here, Nick lovers, y'all won't be able to see no games for a while. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, definitely had to put this one on the list for sure. Alright, next up on the list, we have the Sentry going against Genis-Vell. For those of you who don't know who Genis-Vell is, he is, I believe, the son/clone of Marvel, Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics. Genis-Vell is super powerful at this point. He, at this point, was darn near a reality warper. It's in one story that he killed Eternity itself. In this story, the Thunderbolts have a run-in with the Avengers, and of course, the Sentry, on the Avenger side being their top tier powerhouse, and on the Thunderbolt side they had Genis-Vell. They get into a fight as well, in which Genis-Vell sends him and Sentry to the microverse, and it is described in the scans that they were fighting and expelling so much energy that they had enough energy to shred and to destroy worlds. So whenever you have a character like Sentry and Genis-Vell who are able to destroy literally planets and worlds, like, you have to put that on list of power. Like, that's just crazy. Every strike, every energy blast, just destroying worlds all around them. It's just collateral damage. It's just crazy. Alright, up next we have the Sentry fighting the freaking Molecule Man. Now, if any of you guys have read Secret Wars or the Secret Wars 1 or 2, everybody knows how freaking powerful the Molecule Man is. He is excess energy from the Beyonders universe. He controls, it used to be just molecules. This man, it's basically a reality warper as well. The stuff that Molecule Man can do is just nuts. Even his fight with the Beyonder was crazy. But in this, he goes against the Dark Avengers. And I don't, everybody, argues whether it's a stable Molecule Man, stable Sentry. That's neither here nor there. The fact is that these are still God tier power levels. And not only once, but twice does Molecule Man literally blow up Sentry. Like, he literally vaporizes this man twice. But that third encounter, Sentry comes back. And at this point, this is when the first time that we see like really in its pure entirety, it's actually confirmed that Sentry can actually control the molecules of his world. And then we actually see how powerful he is, that he makes Owen reset everything back, brings himself back, and then just starts like laying it down on Molecule Man. Molecule Man's like, no, I control the molecules. And Bobby's like, nah, you're not the only one here, my boy. You're not the only one. So yeah, we definitely had to put this on the list. Very, very high tier feat. Anything with defeating the Molecule Man when it comes to power and, you know, not a loophole, is definitely something worthy of a list of this nature. Up next, we have Sentry versus the Collective. So for many of you don't know, which everybody does know at this point, there was that House of M event in which Scarlet Witch said no more mutants. I think it was like 99% of the mutant population lost all of their powers, and of course all that energy had to go somewhere, and it went into the Collective. The Collective had all the access energy of all the mutants who lost their powers, and of course him and the Sentry get into a brawl, and the Sentry was holding his own really well. I think he like knocked the Sentry down back to orbit a couple of times, and they just brawling in space. But the fact that the Sentry's able to hold his own against basically, for the exception of very few like Magneto and Cyclops, all the culmination of all the mutant energy in the entire Marvel world, Marvel universe at that time, like that's just crazy. Just crazy power, bro. Like Iron Man can't do that. Freaking, I don't even know if Black Bolt can do that, to be honest. And I love me some Black Bolt, but I don't even know if Black Bolt can hold his own against something, you know, this powerful like the Collective. So definitely had to put this one on the list. All right, next, what we have here is sort of kind of it's a durability feat. So as we know, whenever it comes to superheroes, they're always threatened with nuclear warheads. Like whenever you know what to do with the mutants, or for instance Kingdom Come, we're just gonna drop a nuke on them. Superheroes become too big of a problem, we just drop a nuke. Well, in this instance, Sentry, it's kind of like a throwback story with him and the X-Men. Sentry is helping with the X-Men, fighting I believe it was the General. To make a long story short, the Sentry takes a nuke to the face, and they think he's dead, and the man comes back down from orbit only to show like some minor bruises and his costume being torn. Like he says, yeah, I went 10 rounds with a nuclear device, and having fun yet? Like the man is he's just crazy powerful. The durability is crazy in itself. So not only can he dish it, but he can take it as well. So definitely had to be on the list. Next on the list, we have Sentry versus the Absorbing Man. So the Absorbing Man in this instance was in this Avengers book. Of course, as always, Absorbing Man is a very underrated villain in my opinion. I believe any characters, Rogue, Hope, and DC Amazing Man, any characters that can absorb the powers of others or of elements, the ceiling for them is just super crazy high. And in this instance, the Absorbing Man was able to absorb Sentry's powers. Not all of it. He thought he had all of it, but wasn't all of it. He took some of it, was doing his thing, fighting everybody, learning all the Sentry's power stuff he can do. And then the Sentry's like, all right, you can take it, I'll give you all of it. So he grabs Absorbing Man and he just starts force feeding him energy. In doing so, the Absorbing Man begs him to stop. Now, mind you, this is the same Absorbing Man that absorbed the power of a cosmic cube. So when it comes to levels of infinite power, this is nothing that he's new to. But from fighting the Sentry, it was just too much for him, and he just asked him to make a stop, to the point that he just disappeared. Like he just evaporated into energy. It was just too much power. Of course, it's a comic, so the Absorbing Man comes back eventually and stuff like that. But definitely another top tier feat for Sentry, that his power was just even too much for the freaking Absorbing Man. And last but not least for this list, we have the Sentry versus Blue Marvel. Now, the Blue Marvel is, to this day, my favorite superhero of all time. From the moment he was created, I've been the biggest Blue Marvel stan that there is. But I must say that Sentry definitely held his own against him. In the beginning, it seemed like he was getting the upper hand until he pissed Blue Marvel off. Well, Blue Marvel started giving some hands back, and he ends up knocking the Sentry straight into orbit. I mean, he was looking all sleepy, floating in space. And this has a little caveat to it, because Blue Marvel at this time was fighting one of the most powerful iterations of the Avengers. They had Miss Marvel, who you guys know is Captain Marvel now. They had Wonder Man, who was a Hercules class tier character. They had Ares and Iron Man, and he is over here brawling with all of them. They're like literally jumping him, and he's just sending them all back flying. And eventually the Sentry comes back down from space and just like power bombs the man from outside the atmosphere. And eventually Blue Marvel passes out, and Sentry's like kind of tired and you know, worn out, but he's still definitely still knocked out my man's Blue Marvel. And Blue Marvel, like I said, super overpowered character as well. Controls antimatter, one-shot Ultimate Hulk, and one of the best scans ever. So yeah, definitely had to put this one on the list. And alright guys, that's my list for today for Sentry. I can't wait to see what they do with him with Thunderbolts. I'm not super excited about the Stephen Young casting, though I do love Stephen Young. Very familiar with him from The Walking Dead, and obviously he's the voice of Invincible from Image Comics. But we got to see what they do with it. You know, got to give it a chance. It might be something that works, and if it doesn't, like everything else that's been going on in Marvel lately, it's just going to pile onto the stack of things. But we got to give it a chance, right? We're fans. As always, guys, this has been Jay for Generation Geek. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to have you guys join the family, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.